You guys, so this is going to be a block review of how I pace my progression on squat, bench, and deadlift this block, and sort of how I set myself up for finally hitting PRs for the first time this year. So the main thing that I did here was I started off significantly lighter on really every single lift than I usually would, and basically planned it backwards on my squat, bench, and deadlift in order to hit a PR at the very end. So what this kind of looked like was on squat, I made 22 pounds jumps 4 sets of six until my final week, resulting in, the target being a 5 to 10 pound PR on squat, 10 pound jumps or 11 pounds on a bench press per week, with hoping for like, a 5 to 10 pound PR too. And then on deadlift, about 33 pound jumps, going to being, about a 5 to 10 pound PR on deadlift. And really, where I came up with these numbers was sort of like how I plan out progressions for my clients. So, I do think a really important part of programming right now as a powerlifting coach is actually programming in progression for your athletes, because we want to make training as predictable as possible. And to be honest with you, I think RPE leaves a lot of room for like subjectivity, and I think that it's less about RPE week to week and more about hitting certain load thresholds that set yourself up for the next week of training. So really what I do on squats is about a 4% jump week to week, on bench press, a 3% jump week to week, and deadlift roughly a 5% jump week to week, and then sort of planning backwards from a 5 to 10 pound PR based off of where the last training block ended in terms of where your max was, because you have to base it off of the most recent training block. But overall, I thought that this worked really, really well on squat. Like I was extremely surprised with how well this 474 for six moved. Like it was probably like an RP like 8.5, which for reference, the block before this, I did a 529 squat like an RP like 9.5, just for a single. And I was just super, super fatigued. And it just was really hard to make any progress. I had to really back off this training block and really plan backwards in a little bit of a better manner. And I was very, very pleased with how squats went. And so I'm basically going to keep the exact same progression strategy of about 22 pound jumps week to week. Now on bench press, I thought that my 10, 11 pound jumps per week were actually like pretty smart, but towards the end of the block, like I started getting some overuse injuries just because like my shoulder started acting up, my pec started acting up again. Just because I was doing 4 times a week benching because that's what worked well in the past. Just really like some max, but this is too much volume for my connective tissue to handle. So my coach and I are going to go to twice a week of benching. Um, for this next block. But one thing I might do differently is like a very slight pullback on like week three, where instead of like a 10 pound jump, like to 297, like I would do like a 292 here instead, and make like a bigger jump to like my week four. See if that helps me out with feeling a little bit more recovered. But all things being considered with like how I felt going into this session, like I hit 308 for a set of six, and also the fact I got self lift off and he rolled my shoulders forward. Pretty happy about this. I really can't complain. Coming off of an injury, bench is back up to around baseline, so I'm very, very pleased with that. It's just as important to like look back on training and like analyze things like what you could do better. This is what I do with all my clients. But by the way, every month we hop on a call, we talk about what went well and what didn't, and what we can change for next block, whether that's programming, lifestyle variables, etc., to optimize progress. And on deadlift was kind of weird was that like um my week two was the strongest. And I think it's because my deadlift gets really fatigued by heavy squatting. And I had basically, 2 weeks of lighter squats going into this week two, where it's 550, and like my E1RM here was like fucking 750 pounds or something crazy. This was like a sub five set of five with like 550, 51. And like, so I kind of am looking at this as like, okay, week two is like a good sign of like where my deadlift is in terms of strength without fatigue. And then week four is a sign of where my deadlift baseline strength is, with some fatigue. And I'm not really going to change anything with the actual like peaking on like a week two. I'm just going to say, okay, like cool, like I can still hit an end of block goal, end of block target with some fatigue on my deadlift. And that's fine. Like I got a 10 pound PR, which is awesome. Maybe I pull back a little bit on that week three, like I did there, instead of doing like 584, like the 573. But I'm just gonna see how I feel and change things accordingly. But all in all, like finally making some progress again. I'm not planning on competing probably until later on in the year. I just want to really have lots of good progress and, finally having some training momentum and having fun again in training. So that's kind of like the block review. And sort of how you guys are thinking about pacing your progression throughout the block. If you guys have any questions about this, or ask down in the comments below. If you guys are interested in coaching, getting jacked and strong super fast, links are also down below for coaching.